Cool. I'm very excited to be with these gentlemen today because usually when I talk to these guys, they're asking me questions, and today I get to be the one asking questions. So that's very exciting. I'm going to share some fun facts about you guys as a little introduction, and then I'll let you guys talk a little bit about your networks and tell us something that we don't know. So I'll let you guys think about that. Something surprising that folks haven't read about on Twitter yet. Cool. So I'll kick off Marek. You were just up here, but I found out recently that Marek's a new dad, and but's been doing intercontinental trips. I think I've seen you in Europe like twice in 3 months. So I'm guessing sleep is not really a thing right now. Previous to Cello, co-founder of Cello, CTO of C Labs, also co-founder of Valora Wallet, which I didn't know until recently, but very cool. So yeah, tell us, I know you just talked about Cello, but so tell us something a little bit tell us something exciting that we haven't read about on Twitter.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is this on? Yeah. So you probably know Cello as being kind of this mission-driven chain. We're doing a lot around financial inclusion. But I think probably because we were the first chain to offset our carbon, we've also attracted a lot of refi projects on Cello. And one refi project that's pretty exciting that I'm excited about is Sylvie. They're creating a protocol that is incentivizing tree planting. And I think a lot of people talk about how programmable money allows you to do mass coordination and take on really exciting things. I think if you think of one of the things that we would probably want to mass coordinate around the most, I would imagine it's actually saving our planet from climate change. And I think one way to do that is to just plant 1 trillion trees, and that is like this really big and ambitious undertaking. And I think crypto is really like one of the best tools to actually successfully do that. And so I'm excited to see Sylvie and other projects that are kind of trying similar things kind of continue to gain traction and continue to do more on that front. I think there's a lot of good stuff that will come out of that.
I think Cello has probably some of the most interesting applications and builders on it that I've seen in terms of really pushing the envelope on how to use blockchain and to use Cello protocol. So awesome vision that you guys have. I think kind of similar threads, like WorldCoin, you guys have a big vision, have rethinking about the world a little bit. So Stephen here is the head of protocol at Tools for Humanity, the lead developer of WorldCoin. Previously also led product and engineering at Zcash. Who here has heard of Zcash? Wow, pretty cool. Stephen also is a very good gardener. Every time we do a Zoom call, I think that it's a virtual background, but it's actual his garden. Just always sunny and beautiful. So tell us a little bit about WorldCoin, WorldChain. You guys are migrating off of OP mainnet, building your own L2. Share a little bit more about that vision.
Yeah, thank you for that. We've announced WorldChain. It hasn't launched yet. We'll have some announcements later this week. But
sorry for spoiling that.
No. I mean, it's not launched as in permissionless mainnet yet. But we're working on it. As Vivian mentioned, I was at the Electric Coin Company for about 3 years prior to coming to Tools for Humanity, which is the primary developer of Zcash cryptocurrency. So we did a lot around cryptography and ZK snarks, and if you know much about Zcash, we did some pretty cool things there. But yeah, so WorldChain in particular, our focus, like the WorldCoin project, is really just a focus on humanness. So we call it the blockchain for humans. And we've got mechanisms through what we call World ID, which is kind of a Sybil-resistant proof of personhood credential that we're going to kind of incorporate into the protocol. And I think it's going to allow for some really interesting possibilities, how we can do things like fee management or prioritization, in the chain itself. But yeah, so we'll be migrating from OP mainnet over to WorldChain when we have the chain up and we have the requisite partner, group, on the chain and integrated, which we're working on right now. probably something someone doesn't know is we migrated from Polygon to Optimism over a year ago now. And we knew before we ever migrated from Polygon to Optimism, we were going to launch our own rollup. And it was going to be on OP Stack, which hadn't even been named yet. So we made, even though we announced it in April of this year, we've known we were going to build a rollup for well over a year. And it was going to be based on, the Optimism tech stack.
Thanks for having faith in us before we named the OP stack. So in having faith in us, Mode, really early Superchain team to join the Superchain. James here is OG in the space, has been around for some time now. Former, also co-founder of Hype Agency, who, I don't know, we work a lot with Hype. I don't know who else works with Hype, but they're awesome. And also you used to have a podcast.
Yeah.
Who was the most interesting person you interviewed on your podcast?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I was focusing on talking to people who are focusing on growth stuff. So marketing, PR, all this kind of stuff. I really liked talking to Camilla Russo. She was really cool. She has a publication called Defiant. And yeah, she had really cool advice on how to position a crypto company, which I think is really hard, really, really hard.
What did you learn from Camilla that you've used in Mode?
I think the main thing is I was doing a lot of crisis communications or helping a lot of DeFi protocols back in the day when they got hacked. And the key thing is I learned from her and from other people is you just have to be very fast and very over communicate and be very honest when things go wrong. And although initially that's quite painful, in the long term people respect that a lot more. So yeah.
Got to put out the fires.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us more about how you got into Mode, how you started from podcast to Hype to Mode, and what Mode's about.
Yes, I was always pretty active doing DeFi stuff since 2017. Playing around with all the new protocols. And I was really impressed with how ecosystems like Arbitrum grew a very native, strong core DeFi audience. I saw a lot of that happening on Optimism. But when I was speaking more to some of the Optimism team about what their DeFi plans were, they said, well, actually, we're more focused on building out the Superchain and this group of chains. And we expect more innovation to come from individual chains themselves, contributing back to the collective. I pitched the idea of focusing on building out a chain that really tried to push innovative DeFi protocols, give them the tools they need to bootstrap to get their first 10,000, 20,000 users, their first 5 million, 10 million TVL, so they can then start to scale up. And we launched at the end of January, and it's been a pretty wild ride.
Mode Networks has been such a rising star. I mean, you launched in January, and I think you've hit 600 million TVL in the last few months, which is insane. Speaking of the Superchain, I'm going to put you on the spot, James.
Yeah.
What does the Superchain mean to you today, and where would you like it to be in 1 year from now?
I think, so the key thing which has helped us is we aren't backed by any huge VCs. And we've got a lot of support, and we're lucky to be building it alongside a lot of amazing teams and builders. And it's completely open door to speak to everyone, to get advice. And that's been super, super helpful for us. And also the tech stack is so strong, trusted. It also gives us this extra confidence we need to focus on the things we're trying to innovate on, which is supporting builders with DeFi. So yeah.
And 1 year from now?
1 year from now, I hope there's more interoperability. So
ooh,
yeah, that's what everyone wants. They want their assets on Mode to be able to
dropping some alpha. Not really.
Mode.
We're building out in the open, so everybody knows that interop is coming. But yeah, we'll have more to talk about that for sure. Steven, how about you? What does being the superchain mean for WorldCoin and 1 year from now?
Yeah, I mean, so I've always been a fan of, if you go back even to like Cosmos and what it launched for, like, multiple chains, they call it the interchain, right? Where you have application chains. The difference there, of course, that's a full layer one. Like if you're building in Cosmos, you build on the Cosmos SDK, you build your own L1. But the tenets were, shared security, they were trying to get to some composability. But if you look at the superchain in that same kind of light, it's the same concept, right? You have multiple specific roll-ups, but that are able to collaborate in some fashion that you couldn't otherwise do. Interop is clearly, is super interesting to us. Down the line, some sort of shared security, if you will, whatever that looks like eventually, is going to be interesting. But what it means to us today is fundamentally, we can do things to what we think improve the stack and then kind of upstream that to other teams. So you get a lot of benefit from the masses building on OP Stack. Like Base has done some really great work around like gas targets and raising those. Celo has some amazing tech in their stack. And, I mean, I could talk about that for quite a bit. But just the benefit of the collective, kind of giving back to OP Stack proper and kind of just moving it forward as the best platform to build on is what has really attracted us to it today. Down the road, things like, interop, potentially composability, I think are super interesting.
So I was on another panel yesterday that was called modular versus monolithic. And there was an interesting observation that OP Stack is obviously a modular stack, but with interop, actually, we're converging a little bit into becoming monolithic, right? Because the core interop set has to have the same configuration. I'm curious, Marek, how you think about that in terms of OP Stack being modular versus monolithic, and where you see the pros and cons.
Yeah, it's a good question. And maybe also just to answer your last question too, because I was thinking about what gets us excited about kind of interop as well. I think I see two things, right? I think composability was mentioned, right? Being able to like call and have dApps interact with each other, I think is going to be just really amazing. I think it's going to create use cases that we can't even imagine right now, which is always exciting. I mean, certainly I'm excited for all the UBI dApps on Celo to be able to interop with WorldCoin. But then the other thing that I think is also really interesting is one of reducing risk, and ultimately that means lowering of spreads and fees, right? If you're moving assets between chains right now, if you want to do that quickly, someone's taking on some risk to do that, and therefore they're charging a fee. That fee's kind of annoying for people. I'm excited for all of these fees to just go down over time, and I think all of this tech will really help there. And then in terms of monolithic versus modular, I mean, certainly OP Stack is definitely very, very modular, and I think that's certainly the thing that got us really, really excited about joining. So one thing I didn't really mention in our talk is that because we have this big focus on emerging markets, we're very fee sensitive, and so Dango is actually launched with EigenDA for DA. We're anticipating blob space to become more and more contentious over time, and so we're very, very we want to kind of make sure that we can keep fees really, really low, also to compete against Tron, which has seen kind of their fees really spike. And so, the modularity of the OP Stack enables these kinds of choices. And then in terms of the Superchain and the constraints that imposes on chains, I mean, I think this is very, very interesting, and it makes sense why it's happening. I think the trade-off is just, 4 chains that are in the Superchain certainly greater than kind of the loss of modularity. So in my mind, I think the benefits of composability, of interop, all of this is just really exciting.
How am I doing on time? I've not been. All right. Nobody knows. We'll just keep talking. So little peek into the roadmap. We're shipping interop this year. Fingers crossed. Most recently, though, we shipped fault proofs. It's been a while in the making. I think nearly 2 years in the making. There were definitely some public uncertainty about whether or not OP Labs was ever going to ship fault proofs. Did this ever cause any concern in you guys' mind? And is fault proofs important for you guys? Did you guys even care?
Yeah, I definitely cared. I mean, I think it's hard to be called a roll-up or optimistic roll-up without, successfully functioning fault proofs. I think we never really feared that it wasn't going to come, in large part because you guys have been so communicative. We've been chatting with you ever since we kind of made that proposal to our community last year. And we had a lot of confidence that it was coming, thanks to those conversations. And also thanks to everything that was running on testnets. I think that was, it's been running on testnets for quite a while. And so that was always really reassuring. So yeah, no, we were very interested. It mattered a lot, and also very confident it was going to come. And I know that that wasn't the case publicly, but I think we had a really good insight there.
I know world chain decentralization's big for you guys. WorldCoin Foundation, technical governance. Tell us a little bit more about just WorldCoin's decentralization goals.
Well, I mean, our goal, like probably most every project, is to be as fully decentralized as possible, but at the right rate. Like if you decentralize prematurely, then you can stall your project, and then clearly, if you don't decentralize at the right pace, you wind up some centralized conglomerate. We don't want that either. So in general, decentralization is super important to us. In terms of fault proofs, that's a huge step. It's stage one. WorldChain will launch as a stage one chain. So super important to us. Honestly, and to Mark's point, like we never had any doubt that it would get done. And that's it's kind of a side benefit, if you will, of the Superchain and the collaboration with the OP teams and the other teams. Like you work with those teams, you really understand things are going to get done. There's really good people working on it. So it's not a matter of if it'll get done. It may be things you didn't expect, so maybe it's a bit delayed, but that happens to all of us in every project here. It just happens. It's always bigger than you think, and engineers are generally pretty optimistic people. But no, it's a great step. We're super excited for it, and yeah, never really had any doubt.
And now OPStack will have more engineering power with 2 new core developers, right? WorldCoin, TFH, Cello. You guys going to build with us, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're, in particular, we're interested in, the multi-client side of things. So we're looking pretty heavily at RETH and working with Paradigm on it. We really want to see a RETH-based game dispute participant in the fault-proof system, because it's kind of a prereq, in my opinion, for running RETH as an execution client, because you don't want to, just kind of makes sense. So we're super interested in that too.
Awesome. I got one for James, a little bit different. You guys have grown massively in the last few months. Besides crisis communication, what do you attribute your growth to?
So I think that timing the market is very important in general. I think we launched at a very good time. I think we had we put a lot of effort into the product experience. Like when you go to the Mode dashboard, you view all your you can view all the applications on Mode. You can view different incentives for applications. I think this worked quite well to keep people engaged. There's a reason to go back to a hub, which is the Mode dashboard, which I think is quite unique. And we also worked hard to try and speak to a lot of people who are LPs across different chains, try and understand what they're looking for. For example, security is a huge thing for any large LP they usually run like an internal audit on the applications on a chain before they commit to them. So we've tried to improve security as much as possible, the application layer. So if you go on the Mode dashboard, you can see the apps we've integrated into our incentive system. You can see all their audits. A lot of them also use other security tools like Hypernative. So we've tried to cater to large LPs within the Ethereum ecosystem and give them a great place to keep their capital and earn yield.
I think we do need to wrap up, but what can we look forward to with Mode in the next 6 months?
So we're going to have a load more assets, and we're going to start building out more on the application layer. We started to work with different protocols like OLAS, who have the infrastructure to run on-chain agents. So our goal is to make it easy for people to use DeFi and earn yield on-chain.
Marek, what's Celo working on?
L2 transition. I mean, that's really the biggest thing for this year is to do that mainnet hard fork into an L2. Beyond that, continuing to support all of our developers and continue to grow kind of that stablecoin ecosystem that we talked about earlier. I think things are really taking off right now, and so I'm just really excited to see how all of these dApps continue to grow.
100 million in Tether, right? USDT?
I think they're at 127. That was 2 days ago. It might be higher now.
It's like at least 200 by now.
Yeah, over 200 total stablecoin supply.
Wow.
I think 225, and yeah, a lot of that growth was in the last three months. I think I was looking our monthly active users were growing, I think 50% month over month for the last 4 months. So if that continues for a while, that's going to be absolutely massive.
Congratulations, that's huge. And WorldCoin, you guys, so much going on, but tell us, what does next 6 months look like?
Well, on, WorldChain will be launched, mainnet by then. We'll have a developer preview that starts well before that, of course, and that's for people to test. It's a dev-gated mainnet, right? So we're just launching the chain. We didn't want to go through a testnet phase. I mean, arguably the mainnet is the testnet initially. So that's kind of the big thing from the protocol team. Yeah, I mean, just in general, WorldCoin is growing like pretty rapidly. I think we have over 6 million verified World ID holders now, and about 10 million monthly active users, something like that on World app. So yeah, a lot of activity.
You guys have the orbs here this week, right?
They do somewhere over at
Okay.
CC.
So if you haven't got
There's an Orb
your
Cafe,
World ID.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, head over to
Yeah,
World
Orb
Cafe.
Yeah, so
Get your World ID. You can be a WorldCoin user.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and sharing a little bit more about your network, Superchain,